Okay, Jess, you ready to talk about Relient K's biggest song?
I'm a little nervous, but let's do this.
I figured for the opening,
Uh-huh.
instead of me missing out on some famous celebrity coming by, I'm going to stick right here. And I invited the celebrity that's coming by to talk at the top of the show today. Are you ready? Come on in.
Do I have a choice?
Nope, here he comes. Come on in. It's Jay Leno. Hey there, Jessica. How you doing? It's me, Jay Leno from The Tonight Show.
Wow.
I was out there waxing one of my hot rods, and Danny said, come on in. And
Thank you, Mr. Leno, for appearing on our humble pop punk podcast.
no problem. I'm out there doing the podcast circuit, taking a little break from apologizing for all the horrible things I've said about Asian people over the years.
Oh, wow.
True story.
Wow.
I'm just here to tell you about Relient K. They were on The Tonight Show once. They sang this song on The Tonight Show.
They did, yeah.
Not my kind of music. Didn't care for it.
Gotta get out of here. I'm stuck inside this rut that I fell into by mistake. Gotta get out of here. And I'm begging you to be my escape.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Hello.
For the intro, I was like, at first I was like, oh, Danny, I forgot. What are we doing for the bit this week? Because, this might end up being like our most listened to episode since it is the band's biggest song.
Right.
And Danny was like, oh, don't worry, I got something. And I was like, I really should have known there.
I like how
I should have been like, no.
For who I am, I was like, we shouldn't do a bit because it's going to chase off new listeners.
Yeah.
So let's do it for the bigger song.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have a guest and any of, the people who come to our show from him.
So thank you if you're still with us after the intro.
So we watched The Late Shift, which was an HBO movie from the 90s about the Jay Leno and Letterman's fight to take over the Tonight Show from Johnny Carson.
Right.
And the guy who played Leno was just he was like a classic Universal monster, like in the giant chin makeup and stuff, and he was just like the worst one. And it's that
actor's in so much stuff too.
Yeah,
I can't think of his name
everyone
right
in the
now,
movie,
but he plays a dad in a lot of things.
Everyone in the movie is someone, which was surprising because I saw that movie when I was a kid because I was so
Kathy Bates is in it, which feels really odd.
Well, I knew who Kathy Bates was when I was a kid, but the movie came out in 1996, and since I was a little comedy nerd when I would have been 14 at the time. I was a little comedy nerd, so I was interested in that stuff, and I watched that movie. I didn't really get like the business stuff and the board meeting stuff, which I all got, which was real simple. When we rewatched it, I'm like, oh, I get everything that's going on, but just being a 14-year-old kid and not understanding how you negotiate business, it just went over my head. But the biggest part was like all the bit actors that I've learned about who they are and seen more movies starring people. I'm like, oh, I know this whole cast now. Where at the time I was like, it's all nobodies other than Kathy Bates. I knew who Kathy Bates was, but when I was 14. But anyway, and then I was like, hey, Jay Leno. They were on Jay Leno. Relient K was on Jay Leno doing "Be My Escape." So it works out perfectly.
It sure does. It sure does. Man, like late night TV, not so much a thing anymore. I think that's definitely something that's kind of going out of style. Like, I know people still talk about like Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon. Why do they have the same name? That just occurred to me. But I feel like, do you know anybody who watches those shows? I don't. I only know some people who watch Last Week Tonight or whatever it's called with John Oliver, which I've seen a couple times. But
I think
that's not
a lot of those shows
thing.
mostly exist now as like YouTube clips
For boomers.
Right. Oh, well, you know what? That's that's sort of the way that. Remember John Schneck's story about how he was telling his kid, like, I was on the Tonight Show.
Oh, right.
and he's like, yeah, whatever, Dad, I don't care. And he's like, well, the clip's on YouTube. He's like, you're on YouTube?
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about it at the time. But
so
then
funny.
After that episode, we got a message from John Schneck's son, and he's like, I know what the Tonight Show is.
Classic.
And I have, before we get into we have plenty to talk about. But one other random Jay Leno story that just popped into my mind is you were working, the movie that you just finished, actually, Forever Not Maybe. And it's out there. It's in festival circuits. Hopefully it'll be available soon. The movie that Jessica produced. I helped on one day, and I had to go pick up a big, what do you call how many wheels is that? 14 axle? I don't even know.
Yeah, it was massive.
It was the kind of truck that
It was like a massive moving truck kind of thing that would haul a lot of stuff.
The kind of a truck the size that would that would take stuff to Target or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know the types of truck. And I guess it was just not big enough that I could just drive it without a special license. It was the biggest possible tractor trailer that you could drive with a normal license, and it was horrible. I hated it. I hate having to drive that thing. I was afraid I was going to kill everybody. But the rental place that I picked it up from was in an industrial area in Burbank, and they were when I returned it, they're okay, just go park it in the back, but don't park it on the back wall, because on the other side of there is Jay Leno's car lot.
Oh, wow.
It's where he doesn't keep his collection in his home. He probably doesn't have enough space for his giant car collection. Yeah. And they're don't park right there, because he doesn't like to see the trucks parked there, because then people can climb up on the truck and jump over his serrated fence.
Sure. Oh my gosh.
I was oh, okay.
Just makes me think about GTA, where you have too many cars that you have to go and buy extra garages to keep them in.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly the situation. Or just like in GTA, where you want to break into a place with a fence over the wall, so you steal a truck and you pull it up and you climb on top of the truck and you jump over.
Exactly.
So welcome to our GTA podcast. So we do still have a ton of voicemails. Let me take a look. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voicemails that we've been slowly getting our way through as we've been in this giant chunk of important songs. So we got Sean calling up to talk about Mrs. Hippopotamus. We can play that later. We got Daniel calling up to talk about one of my takes on the Collapsible Lung album. We can play that later.
Is that Daniel? You can see my socks?
Yes.
Nice. He finally stopped calling Magnified Pod long enough to give us a ring?
You said it, not me. Then there's a second call from Daniel. Then we got Adam Goff, or it says Evan Golf. I assume it's Adam Goff, but it says Evan Golf on the thing. I will hear that one another time. Then we got Brady, and Brady's very excited about this voicemail. He DM'd it to me, so we'll hear that next week for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Brady. You're going to have to wait one more week. So here is Sean, and he's specifically talking about so it's going to hopefully... So I assume it will fit with the theme of today's episode.
Nice.
Hey, Dan and Jeff, this is Sean from Pennsylvania. I know I'm giving you this huge backlog of voicemails and everything, but I figured since you're doing these major songs from I should probably give you some content. So I just want to start off first by saying that this is easily, if it's not tied for my favorite album, it kind of goes back and forth 1 and 2 with and Air for Free for me currently. It's just listening to your episodes on some of the songs there, I'm just being reminded of just how great this album was. And I just really feel like everything that they did in the first 3 albums was just building up to this wonderful, great piece of pop punk work and everything. And I guess now is the time that I can say it's unlike what you guys and what so many other people apparently think of Relient K, where they kind of exist in 3 eras. I always kind of viewed Relient K in only having 2 eras, even though there's multiple different lineups in these and everything. I viewed them first in the pop punk era, which is the self-titled up through and then the pop rock version, which is 5 Square up through Air for Free. And is my favorite album in that pop punk era. It's almost like they worked up to it, they created this brilliant piece of pop punk work, and they're like, okay, we're done, we can go and do whatever else we want to do now.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I like that. Because that's actually how I used to view it. Because coming in as a fan, as a very young teen in the mid 2000s, I definitely thought that at the time that fit in and was not a huge dramatic change from the first 3 gears.
Right.
Now I see things a little differently, but at the time I definitely was like, yeah, this makes sense. It just made, it did make perfect sense as a transition. And then seeing everything kind of after this as something else, absolutely.
I mean, I can agree with him absolutely, and I've talked about this before, but just being into the band from the first album when came out, nothing felt off. It felt fresh for the band, but nothing felt different. Nothing felt out of place. Whereas with 5 Score, things felt like they had shifted. Things definitely felt,
Agreed.
And then when you talk about Forget Not Slow Down, there's a dramatic shift there. Obviously, Collapsible Lung, there's a giant shift there. And then maybe the shift from Collapsible Lung to Air for Free isn't that big when you talk about just kind of like the pop production and stuff, but it's still a different shift in terms of like, to me, Air for Free is like a melding of like the production ideas of Collapsible Lung with the classic Relient K writing style and stuff. But so from that point of view, I totally get it. And actually that's, and I'll bring it up again later, but that's one of my viewpoints on this song that's kind of maybe in the middle of the Venn diagram of what Sean's saying here. And, you know, to not disagree with him, but we'll get into it when when we get to the song. But yeah, absolutely. If you had to split that Relient K history pie into 2, 5 Score is kind of like a whole new different thing, even though and that has nothing to do with the members of the band. I get that.
But also more specifically, you know, like More Than Useless is probably my favorite song from the album. And that song is just so great. I like the words, I love the message behind it, but I also like the way it sounds. I love that moment whenever the bridgie says, you know, like, the world's doing just fine without me. Like, when the without me takes off, it's just like, yeah, feels so good. I just, whenever I was listening to your podcast, I remembered this back, and you might find this in one of your deep dives. I don't know.
I see in the transcription of what he's about to talk about.
Uh-oh. Is this a spoiler?
And this is a spoiler. You already know about it.
Oh, okay.
But it's, you know, we'll get to that. This is definitely something we're going to talk about later, what he's about to talk about. I don't know why I'm being coy. Like, he's about to say what the thing is.
But in 2005, Relient K appeared on MTV's TRL. Now, I tried looking for this, and there's not a ton of evidence for this on the internet. I don't know, maybe you guys will find the same thing I did in your deep dive when you do Be My Escape, but all I could find, any evidence that this happened, was like a blog entry, like a journal entry on the Trademark RK website. And it was in August of 2005. So it was after came out, and it was before Apathetic EP came out. But anyway, they were on there, they did some interviews, and they did an acoustic performance of Be My Escape. I think John Warren was in the band, Dave was still in the band. I don't remember if Schneck had joined yet.
We'll find out.
But I just remembered, the main thing that I remember is they did a little interview spot, and the guys must have been like in one of their moods and everything, because they gave some humorous answers to some things. Like the interviewer asked, what's something that people might not know about you? And I think it was Thiessen who said, people won't know what's in my pocket right now, you know, like he does.
Sexy. That's some precursor to Collapsible Lung stuff right there.
And then the other thing is, in the same interview that came up, the guy asked about the title, like he asked if he was pronouncing it correctly and everything. He says, that's kind of hard to say. And the guy said, yeah, one of the reasons why we named it was because it would be difficult for DJs and interviewers to pronounce, to say it like smoothly in conversation. So I don't know how much seriousness there is to that, but it also is kind of like on brand for Relient K to give an album a difficult name for some of those reasons. So just my 2 cents. I tried looking for it on YouTube. I can't find it. I can't find that interview or the performance. But yeah, they were on MTV in 2005. I remember this because someone in my family recorded it on DVR so I could watch it.
So yeah, we'll come back to that in a little bit.
Did they record it on their TiVo?
Oh yeah, right?
TiVo was a thing then, right?
Yeah,
That was like TiVo was like one of the first really big
DVRs, and it kind of had to step up. I feel like TiVo had a foot ahead of the cable companies having their own DVRs built into the cable box.
100% they were.
Yeah, and then
I remember trying to be like, Mom, Dad, we should totally switch away from cable and we should switch over to this TiVo thing. And then like a few months later, they came out with DVR for cable, and my parents just upgraded to that.
Well, you needed cable. TiVo wasn't the supplier of the cable.
Right. I was like, you need to get this thing so that we can watch shows later. And they were like, we can just record it on VHS. And I'm like, no, it's not cutting it. And then the DVR thing came out not that much longer later. And then TiVo became like the Xerox name for it for a long time. Because TiVo was the first out of the gate. But now people just call it DVR because eventually people stopped using specific TiVo. Yeah, I don't even think TiVo's around anymore. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they're a streaming site now. But yes, we will get back to the TRL stuff. So that's awesome that Sean called to let us know about that. We'll explain what we found and what we didn't find. So this week we're talking about Be My Escape. My sort of first note to maybe rectify if this offended anyone last week or the last 2 weeks. Well, when I said Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been is a song that's so ubiquitous that it becomes eventually boring to me. It starts to feel like wallpaper, and I really can't hear it more than a couple of times. Be My Escape does not have that effect on me. Oh, okay. I'm the opposite. I know, yeah. We talked about it before the show, but I know that Jessica feels the opposite. But it's funny that you feel that way about Be My Escape, because to me, I'm not sure what it is, but there's a lot more going on in this song. The quieter parts. There are some quiet parts in Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been. But Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been is sort of just from beginning to end. It felt like Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been could have been written by some other band. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I can't crack the genome of the music like Pandora did. I don't know what it is specifically. But just the fact that it's such a Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been is such a straight ahead, heavier rock song. There's heavy elements to Be My Escape as well, but it's just something about the tune, the melody. Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been. I'm sorry I'm dancing around this, but I don't know what it is. I feel like if you had given Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been to some other pop punk band of the time, or pop rock band, like one of those sort of like All American Rejects, or, you know, those kind of bands that are technically pop punk, but they're not really, they're more like pop rock. If you give it to one of those bands, I wouldn't have batted an eye. I wouldn't have said, oh, this song sounds like it was written by Matt Thiessen. Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been doesn't sound exactly like it absolutely was only written by Matt Thiessen. Whereas Be My Escape feels like it has pure Relient K Matt Thiessen DNA in this song. Like, I don't personally think I could hear this, which is funny because Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been is a Bad Friend Thiessen song. And I was going to say. But it's not a matter of the lyrics. I'm simply talking about the melody and the driving force of the song. Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been sounds like it could have been written by another band. Be My Escape sounds far more quintessentially Relient K to me. Interesting. Well, before we get too far into opinions, this song was released in October 2004 as the lead single from their fourth full-length album, Be My Escape peaked at number 82 on the Billboard Hot 100 on August 5th, 2005, and spent 4 weeks on the chart. It was also certified gold in the U.S. on October 5th, 2005. Much like last week, I'm like not used to having so much like, official business to report. I thought this was interesting. Be My Escape was featured in 2006 Men's U.S. Open Tennis Championship, with the song's opening guitar solo playing as the event headed into a commercial, according to Wikipedia. Okay. And the song was nominated for 2 Dove Awards at the 37th GMA Dove Awards. Oh boy. Pop/Contemporary Recorded Song of the Year and Short Form Music Video of the Year. Short form music video as opposed to long form music videos, which are very common now with YouTube. Yes, yeah. Not so common back then. Not really. I mean, I guess you had like Thriller. Because now you think of like Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, you've got these like very big production sort of ones where you have, you know, extended stuff at the beginning, the end, you know, you've got some dialogue in there. But like 2004, 2005, That was not quite as popular.
I feel like there was a time in the 80s into the early 90s where long-form videos, because of Thriller, had become a thing. Like, Guns N' Roses had a well-known one. Madonna had a few.
Yeah.
But by 2005, when maybe when you're between MTV stopping playing music and YouTube really being a thing, in that gray area, like, bands were basically just making music videos just to, like, fill, like, an obligation almost.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know why people would do long-form videos in 2004, 2005.
I mean, maybe it was just still big in the Christian industry.
Right. Unless that's, like, counts, like, direct-to-video things, maybe?
I'm not sure.
Like that Newsboys feature film that they did, which is really only, like, 50 minutes long. Like, does that count as a long-form music video?
We should do a bonus episode on the Dove Awards at some point. And an acoustic version of this song was released in November 2005 on the Apathetic EP, and it included the addition of a mandolin. And that is something that comes up a lot in my deep dive. Lots of mandolin tabs. Like,
okay.
If you're a mandolin player and you want to play Be My Escape, oh my gosh, just do a Google search, because I found like at least 4 websites with tabs for it.
Gotcha. Well, now I feel like I gotta spoil the thing that we were being cheeky about to Sean earlier. Because what happened was, because I have to share some information that I also got from this same source, but I DM'd Schneck. And I was actually thinking about this since we did Who I Am, when we had spoken with Punko's Pod, I was thinking, I wonder if Schneck was involved in Apathetic EP, or if those songs were all just from the same session.
Right.
Of and held off for the EP. Well, I found out, so I asked Schneck flat out, I'm like, were you involved in the Apathetic EP? And he said yes. Yes, he was. So those sessions apparently were not part of the original sessions.
Okay.
And John were in the band by then. And it is Schneck playing the mandolin at the beginning of the Be My Escape acoustic version.
Nice.
And then what Schneck said was the same as when we did it on TRL, because he played, and this answers Sean's question, Schneck had a mandolin on TRL,
nice.
And I'm like, oh, you guys played TRL? Like, I didn't find anything about this, and I hadn't, because I did this song's so massive. I helped Jessica with the deep dive. I did some basic deep dive stuff as well. I didn't find it on YouTube. I found that like Weyobi or whatever it was website where all the Leno clips and the Letterman clips and
right.
Everything are, but nothing for TRL. So Schneck sent me the TRL clip.
Nice.
I don't think there's any interview footage on it. I think it's just the song, the acoustic version of Be My Escape.
That's great.
So we'll hear more of that clip. And, part 2 of this episode next week is going to be mostly the covers and
additional
YouTube stuff that I found. But we'll do a few of those this week.
Sure.
In addition to our guest.
So I don't have a lot of Relient K stories to tell on my Relient K podcast, but I have a Be My Escape story.
Oh, nice.
So in college, and this was like late 2005, first year of college. It was the first month actually, and I had a group project for, I don't know, I think it was like behavioral studies or one of those general education classes, and it was off campus, so another guy in my group didn't have a car, and so he was like, hey, can I catch your ride? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I had on in my car, and he was like, Be My Escape came on, and he's like, oh, I know this song. I lost my virginity to this song.
Oh, right. I know this thing.
I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, yeah, with my girlfriend this past summer, because it was on the radio. And I was like, oh, all right. Thanks for the information. Thanks for sharing. And the like really awful, like uptight 18-year-old Christian me was like, I don't think the band would like that. Like, it's so awful. Like, I just want to go back and like knock some sense into younger me. But like, it was really funny. I was definitely really put off. I don't even remember his name now. He was a nice guy, but it was really funny. I was just like, oh, okay.
Well, whatever. I never need to hear about people doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always felt that way. And the thing was, when I was a kid, as like when I was young, and if hearing people talk about doing it and like sex comedies and stuff, part of me thought I was offended because of my religion, because of being Christian.
Exactly.
But when I look back now, especially now that like the trappings and like the judgment on people and the judgment on media that I had inherently in my soul from church, as that judgment has left my body, I'm still like, yeah, I still don't want to hear about jocks and stuff and who they've boned. And not that your friend was a jock, but I also don't want to hear. I also didn't need to hear about like who people have.
It's a weird thing to share with a girl who's like giving you a ride that you just know from a class you're doing like a group project with.
I'm not saying that the inherent thing of like two teenagers having consensual sex in and of itself is weird or bad or sinful. I don't care. But even when I was a teenager, I don't need to hear about my peers and their sex lives. How's your sex life? I don't need to hear that. So it's and I'm saying now as an adult, I can look back at all the Christian like sort of conservative and uptight trappings have kind of left my body. I'm like, nope, that one's still there. It has nothing to do with my religion. It's just like, I don't need your information. Get away from me. Just get away. I mean, it's great because it gave us the story that your friend told you that. But still.
I've been waiting 90 episodes to share that. Just been sitting on it.
So I don't have a ton to say about the song, same as Who I Am, and maybe we'll figure out more to talk about as we dive into the lyrics and as we look at other people's posts and stuff about the song. But yeah, because this is such a major song, it's like, what can you say about it? You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Except that, to me, it's way better than, and I know this isn't the case for you, but to me, this is way better than Who I Am. I think that this is just, I feel like this is, as I kind of danced around, it feels more Relient K. It feels like a natural like peak that Relient K finally like broke through and hit after those first three albums, which is why I was glad to hear Sean's voicemail, because yeah, you can see the first four albums. Obviously, we're discrediting All Work and No Play, but you can look at the first four albums as, you know, the same era, especially since it's the same lineup that was on those four albums.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because Brian leaves immediately after this album is done and John come on very quickly after that, is still closer to the first three albums than it is to Forget or Five Score.
And also, this song really is, it's very poetic. It's very well written. It shows a lot of maturity. Like, this is definitely, this song, I look at this song, I look at these lyrics, I even look at some of the structure of the instrumental, and I'm like, you know what? I can see that they're building up to Forget Not Slow Down right here.
Right.
Like, this is definitely a glimpse at that sort of sound and maturity in the work.
Yeah, and I can sort of see, like, plateau's a bad word because plateau is taken as a bad thing, but I can see how they've reached a peak with this album, and nothing else they did was a lateral move from here, but it was as if the first three albums were a climb to become this band, and once they were here and on this peak, they suddenly had a whole world in front of them artistically. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like, I don't necessarily, like, you can argue Five Score and Forget Not Slow Down being better or not than I think that's completely subjective. But to me, it's like they're not necessarily them continuing to go up artistically. It's like they're finding whole new ways to spread out after they conquered.
Yeah, and they're a band that's just always been doing just what they feel like doing, with the exception of maybe Bird and the Beatsides and Five Score.
Right.
They had a little bit more pressure coming in from record companies with those albums, but you really get, for most of their discography, just them kind of doing what they want to do, which is really, really amazing.
Mm-hmm. When I think of how this is a better single to me than Who I Am Hates Who I've Been, there's a radio mix, which we'll play later, which I don't like as much. It kind of softens it. It softens what the heavier moments.
They have
It
to get
cuts out
rid of
that
the
outro.
Jesus, Danny. They have to make
Well,
it
they-
less about the Jesus, and they have to make it a little
It's
more
not-
murky.
It's not that kind of radio edit. They didn't change the lyrics, but they soften the heavierness of some of the guitars, and they cut out the outro part, which I guess is cutting out some
Yeah.
more of the Jesus, because that's
Yeah.
more proof about
Yeah.
what the song's about. But, the fact that this has a radio edit, and it just feels more like a real original. It feels like everything culminated up to that point in this song, whereas Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been is a maturing sound-wise from the first 3 albums, but you could almost hear a version of Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been on, it would sound different. It wouldn't be exactly the same. You could hear a demo version of Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been on 3 Lefts. I can hear that. Sort of like how Green Day does Welcome to Paradise on Kerplunk, and it's still rough around the edges. They don't change the structure of the song in any way, but when they redo it for Dookie, it fits in perfectly with Dookie. Like, I feel like Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been is just that, it's just on the half step up. And Be My Escape feels like the next step up. So I'm actually curious which song would have been written sort of first. You know what I mean? Like, was Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been written maybe a couple years before? Was Be My Escape written closer to? I mean, Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been was performed at Cornerstone 2004, so it was an early enough ready song to be played. You know what I mean? It was played with Brian still in the band. So I'm kind of curious, was Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been written first, and was Be My Escape sort of like a more perfect, to me, a more perfect encapsulation of everything the band was able to achieve with this album?
Now, I don't know, you might have come across this since you do the video dives, but I did come across that this song was before it became big in 2005. In 2004, this song appeared kind of in the middle of the set until later when they moved it to either, like the intro or the outro or whatever. But initially, it appeared kind of in the middle as like, just
unceremonious.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's how Who I Am was served up at Cornerstone 2004. It's just kind of in the middle. Here's a new song. And
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Cool new song. I mean, that makes sense because, it was a Goatee Records album, right? And they weren't on Capitol yet. And all of a sudden, Capitol's like, goes to Goatee, and we're like, oh, we're taking Relient K. We're just bringing them over here. They're not technically signing to Capitol.
Right.
We're just moving them up because we're all part of the same parent company. So it really wasn't until that move to Capitol that maybe some of this stuff started to really move and shake. And I wonder what would have happened in a world where wasn't moved to Capitol. Like, what would have happened in a world where Relient K gets moved to Capitol, but they're like, oh, that album, that's pretty good. I mean, I can't imagine this happening in any alternate universe, but hypothetically, what happens where Capitol plucks up Relient K, and they're like, okay, let's start working on your 5th album. Don't worry about, you've already released it, it's a Goatee record. It'll be in as enough secular stores as any, Christian Five Iron Friends of Your MXPX would normally be anyway. We're not going to worry about pushing the singles from that. What would that world have been like? Where it's like, let's start focusing on album 5 right away.
Something else that I love is the cover art for the Be My Escape single.
Right.
Which features just Thiessen, Hoops, and Dave Douglas.
Yeah, because this was this very, very short period. I've seen it on social media posts, either on Goatee's social media or Relient K's social media, which it's probably Goatee because they're the one that's active out of those two, where they were like, they showed something else from that same photo set or similar photo set from the time, where Relient K was a trio for a very short period before Warren came in. And, which we know from talking to Schneck that Warren was basically brought in first, and then Schneck was brought in shortly after.
Right.
So there's this funny little period where they didn't get anything out as a trio, but they were a trio for a short amount of time as well, while things were in flux with them and they were moving suddenly to Capitol and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I believe John Schneck was as shocked to learn they were in Capitol. So I feel like they weren't necessarily immediately moved to Capitol when they were still that trio for that like couple of months.
No, it was like, I think it had, I could be remembering this wrong, but I think when we spoke with him, he said that it was just kind of like one day they were like, oh, wait, we're with Capitol now.
Yeah,
like
so
everybody was surprised by it.
So if he was in the band, then that's a couple months, then that's got to be after the short,
Yeah.
the secret origins of the Relient K trio. Like they really just did kind of, when Brian left
because
the
he
band.
had kind of worked with them before, as had like John Warren. So
I
they all
remember
knew
now.
each other and were in the same sort of circles.
Yes, I remember now. Brian leaves the band. And I haven't just heard that we didn't just hear this from Schneck being on our show. I heard this in other interviews and histories as well. Brian leaves the band. Relient K for this very short period of time is like, well, I guess we're a trio, technically without a bass player. And for that short moment, it would almost have been like what Paramore is today, where Paramore is just technically the three members, but you don't get the full Paramore sound from three members. It's just we're the three core members, and anyone else you see on stage with us is a touring member. Anyone else filling in on the other instruments. So maybe Relient K would have gone that way, but thank goodness they didn't. They talked to Schneck first. Schneck was going to possibly replace Brian Pittman. He wasn't available. So then they move on to Warren, and Schneck thinks he's missed his opportunity to be in Relient K. And then they reach back out to him, and it's like, hey, we actually want to bring you in as a third guitarist. That's it. So I do love that picture where it's just the core group that's left before you get the Johns, and then ultimately Dave leaves and Ethan replaces him.
So the radio edit is 3 minutes and 12 seconds long, where the original version that you find on the album is 4 minutes long.
Gotcha. Do you want to listen to a little of the radio edit? Did you listen to it?
Maybe just play that like outro bit, because I think most of it is kind of that.
You should hear. No, there's a considerable difference in the radio edit. So let's play some of that right now.
No, I will say that when that song kicks off, though, like, makes you feel things like that. So good, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I will say that.
This isn't coming through on the Bluetooth speaker that we use for the podcast.
Uh-oh.
But if you put your headphones in, when after the dun 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 dun, dun and then that kickoff, that like everyone suddenly starts playing.
Hope you're not sick of Sadie Hawkins pod.
That's been a problem for a long time, I'm sure.
It's true.
But when this moment happens, ready? That's mixed different. When everything else kicks in, it's just hard for me to actually prove to you right now over the Bluetooth. But I'm sure when people hear it with their headphones when they listen to this podcast, I think people are going to hear it. And then they also cut down the intro.
Makes sense. It's lengthy for the radio. You want to get right to it. It's like the radio's like a YouTube video.
So the actual mix is different. It's just kind of softened a little bit. I don't know why they felt the need to do that.
I do love this song. So it kind of made it sound like I hate this song. I love this song.
I didn't mean to make it sound like you hate that. I hate the song.
It's more just that I've heard it so much. Like, this was the song that I didn't really realize that Who I Am Hates Who I've Been was technically, from a technical standpoint, a bigger single. Mm-hmm. Like, it was definitely Be My Escape. Like, I remember hearing Be My Escape on the radio. I remember having friends in my car who would be like, oh, if we have to listen to Relient K, then you have to play the song that we know, which is Be My Escape. So it's because I had to listen to Be My Escape so much that I sort of just became desensitized to it. It's like I've had to consume it so much that I just kind of don't think of it anymore. It's like when you say a word too many times. It's kind of like that.
If Who I Am Hates Who I've Been is quantifiably a higher charting or more selling song, I think Be My Escape is higher in the zeitgeist of Relient K's. I mean, it's
absolutely
it's number one on Spotify. it was played on TRL.
Exactly. I was going to say, they went on TRL with this song.
I wonder if the fact that, I don't know, I feel like, can't think of any examples right now.
To be fair, the music video for Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been did chart on TRL, but
Right.
I don't believe, at least I didn't see that Relient K appeared for that song, just this one.
Right. I can't think of any examples right now, but I'm sure the history of music is filled with situations where a band basically has their biggest song as a single, and then their next song outsells that previous one, but it's the first one that really becomes the song everyone knows. Maybe more people bought into to Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been, but more people remembered Be My Escape.
Yeah, that's like how I read somewhere a long time ago, like when we first started the podcast, that Five Score was maybe like better selling than which I was shocked about, but it was fully on Capitol released, and it was the follow-up to so I think it was just like people were like, I like that song,
right.
So let me get this whole album.
What we actually figured out later was that it's actually Five Score is their fastest charting album. Not that it ultimately outsold, but it went up the chart really quick. And what's like quantifiably the bigger thing? Like, that means that there was a lot of excitement for Relient K's fifth album, right? There was more excitement for Relient K's fifth album than there was for their fourth album. I believe that outsold. Yeah, it definitely did, from what I've heard when people have corrected us. Outsold Five Score in the long run, but Five Score hit the charts running.
Exactly. Because they're like, people were, at the time, were like, hey, there's this song that I really like, so I like this artist, let me get whatever their most recent thing is. Let me get what their new thing. And it's on Capitol, so you've got that bigger push from that bigger record label entirely.
So the point is, we love all our children the same. Our children being Relient K's songs. So let's hear how the radio edit deals with the outro.
Out here, and I'm begging you to be my escape.
That's it. It just fades out.
Yeah.
He's not a hostage to anything in this one.
Tight fade out.
I swear that in this radio edit, the mix of the song overall is different. Like, there's a bit more treble on the main guitar. It's just a little softer. It's when everything kicks in, it's not as, like, smashing in your face. It's just toned down a little bit for the radio. You know how, like, heavy metal bands, it's always their ballad was always supposedly the bigger single than their actual, like, rockin' songs.
Yeah.
So, I don't even think I kind of realized. I definitely knew about how Be My Escape cut out at the end, but I didn't realize that the Be My Escape radio mix sounds a little different. And it's available on Goatee Hits. What is this album called? It's available on Spotify in a compilation called Goatee Hits, a 2007 compilation of, I guess, just like Goatee's greatest hits. It's got songs by Grits and Jeff Dio and Story Side B. And all our favorites. Paul Wright, Liquid, John Rubin. Oh, it's got Nuisance, which is a song we'll hopefully talk about sometime, the John Rubin, Matt Thiessen song. Anyway, that's Goatee Hits. Go check that out if you want to hear the Be My Escape radio mix, or I assume watch/listen to the music video. So, are you ready to sort of dive into the actual lyrics? Because there's definitely stuff to unpack here.
Yeah, because I was today years old when I learned that I was misinterpreting the opening to this song. So I always thought the lyrics were, I'm giving up slowly. It's not. It's, I've given up on giving up slowly, which kind of changes the intention of the lyrics and the lyrics to follow.
It does. Like, I actually heard it the same way you heard it your whole life, but I also didn't put a ton of credence into that opening line.
So he's giving up faster.
I'm giving up. I'm giving up slowly. I'm blending in so you won't even know me. Yeah, it's like a double negative. Like, it's a double negative, so it's a negative. Or whatever. It's not a positive in our way of having read it. I'm giving up. I'm giving up slowly, or I'm giving up on giving up slowly. I guess that could be interpreted as either that means he's giving up, or he's giving up on giving up slowly, and that means he's actually giving up faster.
Yeah.
Which I think it's about giving up faster, right? Because I'm blending in, so you won't even know me, apart from this whole world that shares my fate. So a little ambiguous, but it sounds to me like when he says I'm giving up on giving up slowly, I think that means he's giving up faster because he's done with everything and he wants to escape, and he's blending in so that people won't even notice him anymore, and he's given up.
So there are definitely karaoke versions of this song, and I really want for next week for us to do you just reading the lyrics in time to the music.
Okay. If you want me to. And this one, and I'm reading right off of the booklet here. And this one last bullet you mention is my one last shot at redemption. Because I know to live, you must give your life away. So this is also one of those things about Relient K that was the larger way in which they matured immediately with this album. To me, not being a huge lyrics person and never being too concerned about understanding every word, I've just never felt that way. I can hear a song like Be My Escape, and I can be like, I get what he's saying mostly, but I don't need to like dissect every word to make sure that every line is fitting exactly what I think he's singing. And it's like we talked about last week when you gave that Jim Morrison quote about good poetry is about at least two things at a time.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know exactly what he's saying every line. Like, I don't know what the last bullet he mentioned that they mention is. I don't know who he's talking to. Obviously, the big debate is either he's talking to God or romantic interest or some other person.
Well, don't worry, because Song Meanings and Genius have something to have their own ideas about that. And I always read it as, this is definitely a two-meaning thing because you have bullet and shot in the same sentence. But I totally read it as like this one last bullet you mentioned as being like a bullet point.
Right.
On a document or what, as something that
well,
you're
there you go.
Through.
That's poetry's two things at once.
Yeah, exactly.
So is my one last shot of redemption, because I know to live, you must give your life away. So right there is like, to live, you must give your life away. Immediately there is what might feel like the most Christian or otherwise spiritual lyrics so far in the song.
Yeah.
But when I also hear some of these sort of lyrics, and it's kind of like this basically, how am I trying to phrase this? Well, it's definitely, we know that this is Relient K, so we see this through the lens of being a Christian band, so we assume he's talking about giving your life to Christ. And that is most likely, that is very plausible of that's exactly what he's singing about, especially when you consider that all other like 30 songs the band has written up to this point, 40 songs the band has written up to this point, are usually almost always about Jesus. If they're not about a Sadie Hawkins dance or a horse or the Thundercats, then they're about Jesus. But when I think of the line, to live you must give your life away, that's not an inherently
What about
Christian...
when they're about a Charles in Charge?
But the Charles in Charge is like one of the most Christian songs. It's Jesus. It's one of the only songs where Jesus appears personally in the lyrics.
Like, hey, you, me, and Jesus are gonna go pick up some chicks that from the girls from Baywatch and on your show. Sure thing.
Okay, yeah, I can't wait to get to that. So, what I was saying is, to the phrase "I know to live, you must give your life away" is not to me an absolutely inherently only Christian concept.
No, you can read that both ways.
You can read that in a number of ways. You can just read that like about letting go and again, this is a religious thing, but people say this in a secular way: letting go and letting God. You don't always have control over your life. Even if you're an atheist, you don't have absolute control over your life. The people who try to force control over their lives, like the most forceful, become like dictators. And like, you know what I mean? Like the people who absolutely say, I know, I do not accept that you are usually like people who are awful to be around, like awful principals and teachers and parents, like people that like try to force everyone into a box. So like everybody, no matter what your religious belief is, needs to give some of their life away. They need to give up the fact that circumstances are not always in their control. So if you take the non-spiritual, non-religious, non-Christian view of this song, then that can be a way to interpret that line.
It is a little like, I know to live, you must give your life away. It is very, very much so a Christian thought. But you can be like, you know what? In order to live, you must love. And so you must give your life away to your love.
You know what else?
I can see it both ways.
You know what else? It fits 2020 and what we continue to feel now.
Oh, no, what?
But I mean it. To live, you got to give your life away. You got to stay inside.
Oh,
everything
facts.
you did for your life, all the things you loved doing, going out, being with people, being with friends, being with family, going to movies, going to sporting events, that was how you lived. You got to give that away if you want to literally live, because you need to not catch the virus and not spread it.
Thank goodness I was not high right now, because that just blew my mind.
Now, obviously, I don't think that Matt Thiessen had COVID-19 in mind when he wrote this song circa 2003, 2004. And I've been housing all this doubt and insecurity, and I've been locked inside that house all the while you hold the key. This is much easier to follow than the previous two stanzas. And I'm dying to get out, and that might be the death of me, and even though there's no way of knowing where to go, I promise I'm going.
Because I gotta get out of here. Like, I don't know how you're actually reading those lyrics and not singing them.
Because I'm tone deaf. I am singing them. Them. What do you mean?
Oh, no.
I thought I was doing a good job for once.
You were doing great, Dan.
So, yeah, I mean, that's like the classic symbolism of the song, is like his whatever it is, whatever is getting him down, his depression, his feeling cooped up, his being, oh, you know what, and I've definitely seen tweets in the last year
that we have literally been locked inside this house.
Now that I think about it, I didn't think about it before, but I've seen, because I comb everyone's tweets about Relient K, and I see people talking about, I've been locked inside this house.
Yeah, this is time for a big Relient K comeback.
Yeah.
We are primed, folks.
So obviously he's talking about an emotional locking up and an emotional, or either an emotional or a spiritual key and house, and but you know, it's still
because
very
you really could read this either way, because there are people who put their everything into a significant other, so you really could. I can see how you could read it that way. Knowing Relient K, it feels way more just like, yeah, you know, in order to live, you've got to give your life to God. And, you know, you've been housing all this doubt and insecurity, and all the while, you know, God holds the key. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But you could, if you didn't want to read that into it, you could very easily be like, yeah, you know, you've got this person, and they hold the key to everything. They give you what you need. Right.
Also, I mean, the fact is this song follows The One I'm Waiting For, which is definitively about a relationship with a girl. Unquestionably, and obviously we did that song 2 years ago now, but when we did that song and we found the song meanings post, it's people arguing, no, he's waiting for Jesus. Jesus is the one he's been waiting for. But definitively and without question, we dug into it. You can go back and listen to that episode. That song is about his girlfriend, Catherine.
Absolutely, because why would you be waiting for Jesus? Like, Jesus is always there.
Right. Yeah. So that song is definitively about a relationship with a girl. So coming off of that song, you can see how when you listen to a song like this, the next song, where it's kind of vague, but has only the most vague spiritual imagery that doesn't even seem necessarily exclusively Christian, that it could be about a relationship with a human, even if it's not romantic. If it could, I mean, so far, and we'll finish the lyrics, but so far I would say this could be about like a family member or a friend who is coming along and asking them to be their escape. Like, obviously the idea of like being an escape is like romantic if you're like, give me a kiss, Like, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds romantic and a little sexy to be like, I want you to be my escape because I'm so depressed. But what if it's like you're asking a parent or a sibling or a best friend, I need you to be here for me. I need you to be my escape from this difficulty I'm going through.
This being track 2 definitely felt like, at that time especially, I was just like, oh yeah, it's track 2, so this is going to be the big single. Because like every other artist that I was listening to, track 2 was always the big single for whatever reason. And I don't know, I haven't taken music theory or anything. Maybe there's like a specific thing to that. I don't know. I haven't taken record producing 101.
Right.
Like maybe that's how you do tracks. I don't know.
I don't think that falls directly into music theory.
It
doesn't.
I know
what you mean.
Doesn't at all.
Because music theory
I know
is
nothing about
notes
music.
and crap.
Know nothing about
But
music.
that would be like marketing theory or something. That would be like music marketing theory, I guess.
Took 3 years of drums and here I am. Like, no, please actually me, because I don't know.
I don't know music theory. I remember I had one music theory
Does anybody want to
once.
take this podcast over with Danny? He really needs a competent co-host as far as music is concerned.
Well, whoever would come on, if it was like Daniel or someone that we know, I would just be like, I can't argue with you about any of this. Like if it doesn't feel right, and that's happened on Twitter where I've had like conversations about ska and stuff, and then Daniel pops in and he's not even a part of the original thread, and he's like, what you're describing is blah blah blah, and I'm like, you're like the fixer in this situation. How can I argue with you?
That's okay, because I got him on Twitter the other day because he did not know that this video he posted, he was like, this is a cool video, I don't know what game this is, and I was like, that's Fortnite. I was like, boom, I know that.
You're so young and hip and cool. Because I gotta get out of here. I'm stuck inside this rut that I fell into by mistake. I gotta get out of here. I'm begging you, I'm begging you, I'm begging you to be my escape.
Man, I will say, this chunk of lyrics definitely speaks to you when you're in, like, sort of a confusing place in life. This song didn't speak to me as a teen, as, like, a high school girl, because I knew where I was going. I knew, like, as soon as I finish and graduate from high school, I know what I'm going to college for. I know what I'm doing. I know how long I'm going to be there. And I know where I'm going after that. As a young 30-something, I'm definitely like, I don't know anything. This song absolutely speaks to me so much more now than it did back then.
So then it remains pretty easy to track and actually quite literal from here. I'm given up on doing this alone now because I failed and I'm ready to be shown how. You've told me the way and I'm trying to get there. And this life sentence that I'm serving, I admit that I'm every bit deserving, but the beauty of grace is that it makes life not fair. So right there is like the most solidly, specifically Christian faith in Christ moment in the song.
It's funny because I never even, like, just knowing Relient K's background, I was sort of like, yeah, this could be read as like a Christian metaphor, but I never particularly took it that way. I was definitely just like, I've always been very intrigued by that line. The beauty of grace is that it makes life not fair. Like, what exactly does that mean? And I'm actually excited to get to Genius and Song Meanings to see what other people think that means. The beauty of grace is that it makes life not fair. It feels like a contradiction.
Mm-hmm. I think I basically have what I assume the geniuses are going to say.
Okay, let's do it. I'm excited.
Basically, it's the core, one of the core principles of Christianity, if you absolutely look at it from a Christian point of view. The beauty of grace is that it makes life unfair. Grace is Christ's forgiveness of your sins. So what from Christ forgiving your sins causes life to be unfair? There's probably a number of nuanced ways you can look at it, but I assume it means you should suffer for your sins. You should be paying. It's kind of like the more flagellating, self-flagellating way to look at it. Mm. But like, you should be suffering for your sins, and it's not fair that you're not. So you're
grace. Saying like the beauty of the grace of God's love is that it makes life not fair in that you are saved and you can sin again and again and you'll still be saved. Is that what you're saying?
No, like I said, there are different nuanced ways of looking at it. So maybe think of it more like this: if somebody screwed you over, well, the beauty of grace is they'll be forgiven and you'll forgive them, and that's not exactly fair. But you all have grace.
I gotcha.
So there's. And just depending on how you kind of shift the pieces around, there's a number of ways that a person can personally interpret that basic line. But I think that's the core principle of the idea, is the fact that there is forgiveness. Just replace the word grace with the word forgiveness, and hopefully it's a little easier to wrap your head around.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, because I'm thinking of, like, if you want to look at this from your, like, a purely secular point of view, the beauty of grace is, like, not a person named Grace necessarily, but like I always think back to the fact that it's like my parents used to have this thing up in my room that was like, because I was born on a Tuesday, it said Tuesday's child is full of grace. And so I think about that from time to time. I wonder what happened to that. It was like a cross stitch needlework thing. I don't know what happened to it, but I was thinking, like, to me, the word grace really evokes more of like a ballerina sort of right. Visual. So it's like the beauty of like being with someone graceful is that it makes life not fair. So you could almost look at this in like a very dark way, in that like if you're pretty and you move well, life isn't fair because you get everything. And
that's a perfectly interpretable way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
But Merriam-Webster defines grace as 1, unmerited divine assistance given to humans for their regeneration or sanctification. So the number one definition, according to Webster, is getting merit from God for no reason.
And that sounds about right.
Also, in sub-definitions of that, a virtue coming from God or a state of sanctification enjoyed through divine assistance. Definition number 2 is approval or favor. Stayed in his good graces. Number 3.
That could your second definition can work too, because the beauty of grace, meaning acceptance, makes life not fair. If you want to look at this from a high school standpoint,
or getting into college, acceptance.
Yeah.
Number 3.
You're accepted a lot more if you're a jock or whatever, and
you go around telling everyone if you scored, if you got laid, what you lost your virginity to. Definition number 3 is a charming or attractive trait or characteristic. So I would assume the etymology of that definition is basically like you have a merit in your personality that wasn't earned. It's just there.
Right.
So it's like a grace that God gave you. Your amazing ballerina, although you'd have to earn
your beauty.
Your beauty or your heavenly way of dancing as a ballerina is a grace that God gave you.
I hate how deep we're diving into this single lyric, because we never do this.
But that is like one of the most calligraphied and bootleg merched lines by Relient K. Is the
for
beauty
everybody
of grace that
who quit college and took calligraphy so they could make their fake degrees.
Yes,
it's that line.
Another way, last thing on this that I would say is doing a simple algebraic equation to say the beauty of grace is that it makes life not fair. Then you could say the beauty of life not being fair is grace. You know what I mean? If you flip it, this should be equal. The beauty of life not being fair isn't beautiful, but the beauty of life not being fair is that grace exists.
April just got bored with us. She did not appreciate your...
I thought I was saying something pretty, like...
I loved it, babe.
In there.
But April the engineer did not.
So there's many other lyrics. A repeat of the pre-chorus, repeat of the chorus, the bridge. I am a hostage to my own humanity, self-detained and forced to live in this mess I made. So there's hints of Bad Friend Thiessen themes here. Yep. Hints of it, but not really a full-on Bad Friend Thiessen song. And all I'm asking is for you to do what you can with me but I'll ask you to give but I can't ask you to give what you already gave. So that right there is the most absolutely flat out Christian lyrics. Also because I moved to Genius at one point here. I didn't read the annotations, but the booklet I was reading was from a screen cap, and I realized that it continued on page 2, and I didn't take that screen cap. Genius capitalized the U's.
I can go grab the CD or the vinyl if you like.
Please go grab the CD. Well, I explained that
Cool.
the you pronoun was capitalized, implying that he is specifically talking to God and saying, I can't ask you, I assume, I can't ask you to once again give your life on the cross because you already gave it.
I also ran into a number of lyric sites
Which
that use capitalization.
So I would like to see on the actual booklet if you is capitalized or not. So as Jessica comes back, holding April, holding our dog, she's got... April's here now. So the booklet, the word you is not capitalized in any of the cases where it would be.
Interesting.
You is lowercase everywhere in this song. So I'm begging you to be my escape. That is not capitalized. And I can't ask you to give what you already gave. That is not capitalized either. So I feel like, where did the capitalized U's in Genius and similar things? So where'd this come from?
Where'd they come from?
Did they come from fans who were just like, well, this
Sure.
song obviously can only be about God.
Right.
Which I do think...
Because they are based off of user submissions.
Right. So I do think that this song is about both, and it's supposed to be a simile or a metaphor to say, like, you can get help out of your depressions and out of your difficulty in life from the people that you love, and God loves you, so he can get you out as well. But I don't know, theologically, I can't get behind saying this line to God. I can't ask you to give what you already gave.
Because
because you can't ask him to...
you can't ask him.
He doesn't need to die for your sins
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Unless there's another way of interpreting it in a theological way that I'm not seeing. What I'm hearing here is Christ gave his life on the cross for my sins, and I can't ask him to do it again.
I look at that from a bad friend Thiessen point of view. I look at that as like...
I can't ask you for forgiveness a second time.
Exactly.
But to say I can't, which I assume that we're going to find song meanings and stuff where people are saying, I can't ask you to give what you already gave, is asking God or asking Christ to die for his sins again.
I can see that.
But he doesn't need to die for his sins a second time. He has unlimited, uncapped forgiveness forever now because he already gave that sacrifice. So you can ask Christ for forgiveness again, and it's automatic, and there's, you can beg, you can be penitent, but it's not like, but you can't say, I cannot ask you, God, to forgive me again. I cannot ask you, Christ, to forgive me again.
I don't
because
see
yes,
why
you
not.
absolutely can.
You can, but there's definitely times in your life when you feel like you can't. There's definitely times when you're like, oh, I've done too much sin.
Maybe you've done before.
Yeah, maybe you've done something worse than you've done before. Maybe you've just messed up too many times. Maybe you've just been bad friend Thiessen too many times,
Right.
and you need to ask God, whomever you're asking for forgiveness yet again. And you're like, I can't ask for you to give the sacrifice that you have already given, which is giving me that second chance.
Right. And then the outro, which is cut out of the radio version, is I fought you for so long, I should have let you win. Oh, how we regret those things we do. And all I was trying to do was save my own skin, but so were you. So, I mean...
That's the most secular line. Because...
I fought you for... Well, to say I fought you for so long, I should have let you win. That can easily sound like you're talking about... I fought God's plan for me, or I fought God's direction for me. I tried to take too much control, and things kept going wrong. I should have just I should have let Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah, but Jesus wasn't trying to save his own skin. Otherwise, he
Right.
probably wouldn't have chosen to die for our sins. Maybe he would have.
Well, all I was trying to do was save my own skin.
Yeah, but were you.
But so were you.
Which does give more... credence to the secular notion of it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that they chose to cut it out.
So I think just like Who I Am Hates Who I've Been, I think that this is absolutely leaning heavier and heavier to the side of this is from one person to another. But it's through the lens of, like, a friend's a friend forever when the Lord's the Lord of them. You know what I mean? Like, that's ultimately what I came down to with Who I Am Hates Who I've Been. Whereas for half of the Who I Am episode, I was wrestling and struggling with thinking that this is either one or the other, or it's two parallel universes at the same time. And suddenly I broke through in my brain, and I'm like, wait, it can be about human relationships through the lens of your relationship with the Lord. And in that way,
we know specifically who the song was written about.
We know specifically that song is about a fight between Thiessen and Brian. We don't know that this is specifically about anyone else. But I'm just saying that, like Who I Am Hates Who I've Been, where I ultimately came to this decision where it's about a relationship with a person tempered by his relationship with Christ, seen through that lens. That's now how I'm seeing Be My Escape as we've gone through the whole song. I think it's about reaching out to a person to help you and also praying at the same time that person will understand.
And that's what's so great about art, is that you can take from it whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's why I really appreciate artists like David Lynch, who just is like, no, I'm not going to tell you what it's about.
Right.
Like, just...
And They Might Be Giants. They do the same thing.
There you go. And They Might Be Giants. Just let it be about what you want it to be about. Because the thing is that if you come out and say what it's about, and it's not what, someone who maybe took that and held on to it and, felt something from it, felt better for it, if it's not that thing, that's going to crush them. So I like it being ambiguous just so much better.
That's why we don't fight the lungies anymore. Which we'll talk about in a future episode.
You've just decided this is a thing.
Our next Collapsible Lung episode will be Lost Boy. We don't know when exactly. It'll be in the next couple of weeks. And I talked about this on Twitter, but anyone who sees, the deeper meaning concept in Collapsible Lung, in whatever way, there's multiple ways it can be interpreted, but people who don't just see it as a collection of pop songs are now called lungies, officially, as far as I'm concerned. I put this on the Relient K Discord, and everyone talked about it.
Only through Sadie Hawkins Pod. Oh, you put it on Discord.
I put it on the Relient K Discord.
Oh.
And I just want to make sure it's understood. We'll talk about this more next time we talk about Collapsible Lung. But a lungie is not someone who just enjoys Collapsible Lung. Gotcha. That's not enough.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy Collapsible Lung, but I'm not a lungie because I don't ascribe to, like the biggest lungie we know is Reliable J. Josh.
Right.
He's a lungie because he loves Collapsible Lung, and he believes in those concepts of it. But Death of the Author, it's whatever you want it to be. So,
yep.
Be My Escape. This is how I interpret it now. A lot of people don't necessarily, interpret it that way. And, I've talked about this as well before, but on Twitter, as I stalk everyone who tweets about Relient K, I've seen more than a handful of times that tweet where someone is like, I just learned Relient K is a Christian band. Damn, now I can't enjoy Be My Escape anymore. Yeah. I can't believe it's about God. And I'm like, well, when next time I see that tweet, I'm going to be like, listen to our episode. I don't think it's about God exclusively. So we will take our break while Jessica takes some pictures of April.
Sorry.
And we will be back with just a couple of YouTube clips that I found.
She's laying so sweetly, with me. She's usually off in the living room on her own on the couch when we record. So she's actually doing her engineer duties right now.
Aww. Well, we'll be back with a few select deep dive and select YouTube clips, and then all the rest of those you'll hear next week. But we'll be back after this break.
If you enjoy Sadie Hawkins Pod, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and interact with the show by calling our voicemail line 402-95-SADIE.
You can send an email to sadiehawkinspod@gmail.com and visit our Instagram and Twitter, which are both @SadieHawkinspod.
You can also visit sadiehawkinspod.com for the link to our TeePublic store for shirts, mugs, and stickers, including 2 brand new designs. Following in the history of all of Relient K's logo parody merch, we have a Chick-fil-A parody design.
And to prove to everyone that we are in fact the most punk rock podcast, we have a new Black Flag logo parody. You know, something that's original and that we could really call our own for once.
We also want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/SadieHawkinsPod.
There's JR, Jarrett, Eric, Joel, Connor, Michael, Helen, Samantha, Roxanne, Jimmy Eat Pod, This Might Be a Podcast, Tucker, David, and Brady. You can sign up at our Patreon for bonus episodes, which include us reviewing the songs from K is for Karaoke and reading through the Complex Infrastructure book.
Ooh.
Treat yourself right in 2021 with Sadie Hawkins Pod, the door to a happy, healthy life.
So you like Relient K, do you? Well, what about They Might Be Giants? My name is Greg Simpson, and I host a They Might Be Giants fan podcast, and it's called This Might Be a Podcast. This Might Be a Podcast is a song-by-song podcast featuring a different guest every episode from normal fans like you and I, but also I've had guests such as John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats, Justin McElroy of My Brother and Me, Hutch Harris of the Thermals, Mike Park of Asian Man Records, Franz Nikolai of The Hold Steady, and Danny Weinkoff and Marty Beller of They Might Be Giants, and past drummers Dan Hickey and Brian Doherty. Search for Punk News or This Might Be a Podcast on any podcast platform and you will find us. This Might Be a Podcast, brought to you by punknews.org.
So diving, it's not as easy as I always thought it looked.
Yeah.
So I got some deep dive stuff. Normally this is Jessica's segment. She'll go over all her deep dive stuff next week, but to help her out, I did some Googling in addition to my usual YouTube and SoundCloud and everything.
Sorry.
I found... Yeah.
April, settle. Terrible engineer. We really should fire her.
But she's got tenure? Can engineers have tenure?
Sure,
So,
why not?
I can't wait anymore to tell you this. I just flat out gotta tell you. The number one thing I found in my deep dive, this is when one of the things I kind of lost my mind about.
Because I heard you.
Yeah.
You were doing your research with your headphones in, and I heard Danny lose his mind, and I was like, do you want to tell me now or do you want to wait? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, then wait.
So, I'm so excited to tell you this. So, I guess when Stephanie Meyer released New Moon.
Stop right now. Stop right now.
There is an official New Moon playlist.
Of course there is.
On Stephanie Meyer's website of like, these are the songs you should listen to when you read New Moon.
I wonder if this like adds to the whole like rumor of Relient K being Mormon, because I don't know if Stephanie Meyer is or isn't, but there's definitely a rumor out there that she is. So I'm like, I have questions.
Then all these bands must be Mormon. Foo Fighters, Fat Boy Slim, Sugar Cult, Blue October,
Fat Boy Slim. Please tell me the Fat Boy Slim song on the New Moon playlist. Damn it, if that's not the worst f***ing book.
Ya Mama.
I don't know that song. Ugh.
I would like to, if you were offended, it's like, hey, don't insult me, just tell me the name of the song. So, on the Stephanie Meyer's New Moon playlist, she wrote, I assume this was written by Stephanie Meyer. She wrote, note, this loosely follows the story sequence. I'm going to put a BE or something after each symbol after each song, so you'll know whose perspective I'm. Yep, this is written by Stephanie Meyer.
I'm so excited, Danny. I need to know.
So she's gonna put a B for Bella and E for Edward,
okay,
or a J for Jacob. After I thought this was a symbol, but it's a J in a weird font.
Okay.
After each song, so you'll know whose perspective I'm hearing it from. That might help you categorize them into where they fit in the novel.
I am so excited.
Mostly Bella's, of course, since it's her telling the story.
Sure. 100 pages of her just being depressed and sitting in a chair as the months go by. Yep. Let's keep going.
So on this list, you've got Do You Realize by the Flaming Lips. That's a Bella song. Paper Cut by Linkin Park, That's a Bella Song. Hyper Music by Muse, That's a Bella Song. Apocalypse Please by Muse.
So far, I
That's a
only
Bella
knew the
song.
first song.
Time Stands Still by All American Rejects, also Bella. I'll tell you when it's not Bella from now on.
Okay.
Empty Room by Majori Fair. Unwell by Matchbox 20.
Marjorie,
Pain.
maybe? Marjorie Fair? No?
I don't care.
I don't know the artist, so I was
don't
just
know either.
guessing.
That's the Pain by Jimmy Eat World, also Bella. Ride by The Vines. Fix You by Coldplay.
Nice.
That's a Jacob.
Oh, okay. Fix You is a Coldplay. Yeah,
'Cause
for Jacob.
Jacob
Yeah,
wants to
I'm
fix
sorry.
her.
Fix You is a Jacob. Yeah, makes sense. I feel like we needed. If you had found this, we should have gotten at least a voicemail from Jimmy Eat Pod or something. We should have.
I guess they
done a
haven't
little,
found it. We'll have
yeah.
to let them know. Blue Side by Rooney. Back to Bella. More Bella. Over My Head Cable Car by The Fray. Going Under by Evanescence. Oh no. Tattoo by Brand New. We should remove that one. Be My Escape by Relient K. That's a Bella. There's like no
Sure.
Edwards in this. There's 2 Edwards in this whole playlist.
Yeah, same with the book.
Never Let You Down by The Verve Pipe. That's a Jacob.
So who is she begging to be her escape here? Is she begging God, Edward, Jacob, her sudden feeling of recklessness to be her escape? Who is her escape? I
cares?
want to know. Stephanie Meyer, hit us up at sadiehawkinspot@gmail.com. I couldn't even finish it.
So the only Edward songs are Sound of Pulling Heaven Down by Blue October and Sing for Absolution by Muse. There is no explanation of what character Yo Mama by Fatboy Slim or DOA by the Foo Fighters is.
Was that Jacob? Because I feel like we didn't go over a Jacob song
It
yet.
doesn't. I'm just telling you, it doesn't. There's been a couple. I told you there's a couple Jacob songs.
Oh.
Just Fix You by Coldplay.
Oh, right.
And Never Let You Down by the Verve Pipe. And those are the only Jacob songs. So that is Stephanie Meyer's New Moon playlist. And then she did an alternate playlist as well. I ain't going through this. Oh,
Please
Blink-182's on here.
Yes!
Miss You.
Are these the secular songs? No way. We had secular bands.
No,
we had
there's-
Fatboy Slim.
Just like you said, The World Has Turned and Left Me Here. That's also a Bella song. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're done with this. The Reason by Hoobastank. That's an Edward song.
Nice.
That was great and amazing.
That would be,
and I was
yeah.
so happy I found it. But there's one other thing I found that's amazing, and we'll get to that in just a minute. While
I thought you were going to make me wait a full week, so I'm really excited.
No, I'm going to play all the amazing stuff now.
That's why Danny is doing his deep dive in this episode before I do
Yes.
mine, so he can, because he had these things. He was like, I can't wait 2 weeks to tell you about these.
Exactly. So one other thing I found in my deep dive is the TikTok page
Yep.
for this song with all of the TikToks listed.
So many.
And that goes back to what you were mentioning before about the Relient K Mormon controversy that came up a couple months ago. It all stems from this one TikToker who I don't need to name again. We don't need to continue to drag her specifically. But she did this TikTok that had like tens of thousands, who knows what it's up to now, where it's her dressed as Ramona Flowers with like her midriff showing, and she's got blue hair, and she's just standing there to this song pointing at the TikTok text that she's playing on the video. And the TikTok text says, "This is Relient K. You might think they're evangelical, but they're actually Mormon." And then in the comments, people were like, "What are you talking about? Where'd you learn this?" And she's like, in the comments, she was like, "A friend in the industry told me." And what we figured out is like Relient K is from basically from a Ohio community that's largely Quaker.
Right.
So the only working theory we have is that this TikToker's friend in the industry didn't know what the difference between a Quaker and a Mormon is.
Right.
So
Of which none of the members, current or past, that we know
were
of,
specifically they were just
yeah.
from a town, Canton, but they were from a community specifically that was like Quaker.
Right, and because, by the time you get to hear and like the touring members, Schneck and Warren weren't even from
Right.
Ohio.
So that's the soundtrack to this completely wrong, stupid TikTok that we don't, like I said, we don't need to drag her name through the mud anymore, but it's still there. And she eventually turned off the comments because me and other people, not just me, were just like, this is stupid. You're just saying this because you just want to say it. And it had like way more views than she had subscribers.
Wow.
And maybe
Relient
like you said,
community is like, no.
Maybe like you said, it could have been because of Stephanie Meyer. Maybe that's where maybe her friend in the industry was Stephanie Meyer. So I got a lot of reviews and things.
No, I don't want to be the new TikTok girl, Danny. I don't know 100% that Stephanie Meyer is Mormon, but I read it in an article once, and it could be wrong.
No, I
really
feel
don't
like
know.
I've heard that too. I feel like I've heard that too.
Or Latter-day Saints, or maybe something in that same sort of...
No, I've definitely heard this as well. I don't know what it is, but you're not far off in thinking it's something along those lines. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. She might not be Mormon. I'm sorry, but it's something along those lines. I found 3 different of those like tempo sites: TuneBat, Song BPM, and Note Discover, and they all have a different BPM for this song.
Oh no!
One's like 200,
See,
and another is 180, and another's like 179.
Yeah, that's why I don't do that section anymore. Because Daniel, you can see my socks called out like a very early song where I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I just went from the internet, and the internet doesn't know anything. It must be true. It's on Wikipedia."
Yep. So we have a lot of live videos, and we'll get to all of them next week. Like I said, we have John Schneck sent us the TRL footage. We'll play that next week. We have the footage from them performing this on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. We have the Apple Store in San Francisco that we haven't seen clips from in a long time. We have Cornerstone 2006. This is the last time we'll see footage from your Hard Rock Live show in 2005. This is on the live album. There is footage of Andrew McMahon from Something Corporate.
Yeah, I came across that
I
one
found
too,
that
yeah.
just on YouTube by itself, and then I also found like the Absolute Punked news article about it. And it's funny because we hear stories all the time about, Thiessen not being able to make certain shows and people taking over for vocals. Like we've heard John Foreman was supposedly sang for Relient K on some nights of the Looking for America tour.
Right.
But that footage isn't out there anywhere. So it's like all these times where Thiessen wasn't able to play that you hear about. And this is the first one I've ever seen.
Same.
Is this Andrew McMahon singing Be My Escape.
Yeah, when I came across that, I got really excited.
We have, we'll talk about the music video next week, but we have also footage from the making of the music video, of which only part 1 is on YouTube, and Schneck sent me part 2. So that's really cool.
Nice.
Let's see what else. There's a whole bunch of live footage, lots of different versions of it, acoustic performances as well.
I'm so sorry. I looked it up. Stephanie Meyer is
Church of Latter-day Saints.
LDS, yeah, Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm sorry. I laughed because it says it's the first thing when you Google Stephanie Meyer religion that comes up, and it says Meyer is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, does not drink alcohol, drink coffee, smoke, or watch R-rated movies. And I was just like thinking about don't drink, don't smoke. What do you do? Write about sexy vampires that sparkle. That's what you do.
So we have a lot of really fun and interesting covers because this is obviously such a big song that you actually have like different sort of genre takes on the song and stuff. And we'll do a bunch of those next week. But I do want to give credit to this one. This is by Jane Lai. Jane L-A-I. And this is from the Bandcamp Relient K tribute album that just came out called K, The Only Reliable Letter, a tribute to Relient K. This came out, people were tweeting about it and they tweeted at us and we retweeted them and stuff. But unfortunately, most of the songs on this tribute album we've already done.
Oh no.
So we might do a deep dive specifically into this album later.
For sure.
But the fact that there's one song available on here, I wanted to make sure that we're doing right now. I wanted to make sure we gave some credit to this one. So here is this cover by Jane Lai.
Okay, ready?
Giving up slowly. I'm blending in so you don't even know me. Apart from this whole world that shares my fate. This one last bullet you mention is my one last shot at redemption. Because to live you must give your life away. I've been housing alts down.
It's so dreamy and weird and lovely.
Yeah.
It's so, like, no one ever transforms Relient K songs like this. So whenever I hear it, it's great to actually hear people transforming a Relient K song so heavily. So I love that.
This gives me some Kate Micucci vibes a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
With the vocals.
Right. I mean, she's more like, isn't she more like because she's a comedian as well.
Yeah.
So her music stuff is a little bit more twee.
But you've got
right?
that, she's in Steven Universe.
Yeah,
she
I
does
know.
Sadie, yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, musically, it's not something I think of as Kate Micucci. But yeah, this Jane Lay's vocals remind me of that for sure. One more cover, and then we have one sort of fan video to play. This cover, I definitely want to play. Oh my gosh, there's a parody. We're not playing this right now, but there's a parody about going to the bathroom.
What?
And we'll...
Oh.
That's a tease for next week.
Wow. Oh, how can you tease that?
So this is Tommy. This is not that. This is Tommy Chipperaney. And this is basically like a mumble rap, like an emo rap type thing.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of. This is sort of funny because this is from 9 years ago, and this is before like emo rap hit the mainstream. So I guess emo rap was still like brewing at least 9 years ago. I wasn't really familiar with emo rap pretty much until like the last couple of years of listening to podcasts about pop punk music. But like I said, this is uploaded by the Button Up Gang.
Is this like MGK?
I don't know. You tell me. We'll play it. But basically, this person...
I meant the emo rap thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
okay,
like,
cool.
a punk and emo-inspired rap is like a thing now because I guess it was brewing online for years.
Sure.
And this is one I found from 9 years ago where this person basically took Be My Escape and they wrote a remix to Relient K's Be My Escape.
No.
I know I'm not a rock star. I'm a rapper. I just did this for shits and giggles, haters, and then a tongue out face.
Nice.
So here it is.
Yeah. Button up. Rock style. Biatch. Yeah. It's time, you motherfucker. Get it fucked up. Got my own shit too. Go hard. Do my thing. Yeah.
Hey you, staring at the blank wall. See your face every time that you call. And I gotta say, this feeling could push me away. So wrap your arms around me. Never leave me broken like you found me. Cause time and time again I've been stuck in this awkward place. I know this can't be fair.
What?
It's like a remix. It's like a rap.
This is not like MGK.
No, whatever. He's just a rapper who did a pop punk album. I'm talking about actual emo pop punk inspired rap, which is a thing over the last decade.
So like,
I'm sorry,
they just took the song and rapped over it with new lyrics. This is like what you would call like a vocal cover, but they changed it.
I guess so.
I'm so confused.
But no,
this is a whole new genre.
You don't care for MGK's earlier albums, right?
Correct.
All you know is his new album, which is a flat out just pop punk album.
Yeah.
With some random hip hop like beats thrown in.
Tickets to My Downfall is so good.
But this is emo rap, I guess. I don't know. And now I'm confused because you're asking me so many questions that I am not prepared to answer.
I'm sorry.
But here you've got a Relient K song and the guy just like processed out the vocals and he's putting his own rap lyrics on top that he's kind of singing sort of in a melodic cadence that fits the song.
So that's emo rap. It's taking existing material and making your own lyrics.
I'm sure you can take existing material or you could take new material. I'm sure it can be whatever you want. It sounds like you're interested in becoming an emo rapper.
Absolutely.
You've got so many questions for me that I am not prepared to answer.
Who's to say it's hopeless now? Coming from the same girl who wanted nothing but to break me down. I used to see you smile whenever I wake up, but it's impossible to cover girl with makeup. Yeah, Thought I could, but now I can't. So come with me, girl, hand in hand.
Jessica's, well, it's supposed to not, he said he's not a singer, he's just a rapper and did this for fun. And you're being a hater, Jessica, sitting there across from me shaking your head.
I'm sorry.
Well, in just a moment, we didn't mention it yet, but we have a guest this week, and it's Colin K. Bass. He works with Nerdbot Studios. He's an actor, and he'll explain himself. But we've met him online because he's been following us, and we'd been talking and stuff, and he was interested in coming on the podcast. So right before we get to him, last thing that we're playing this week is what I actually lost my mind to.
Okay.
So when you heard me going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That wasn't the Stephenie Meyer thing. That was something I found later because I almost spilled the beans. So I was like, let me pretend it's the Stephenie Meyer thing now and drop the actual thing on you right now. This is uploaded by Becca Brown 4 years ago. It only has 90 views. And this is at the Prospect Theater on January 31st, 2017. This, I guess, acting troupe put on a Walk to Remember musical, of which Be My Escape is one of the songs. So I guess it's like a jukebox musical that these people must have put on in and I assume is an unofficial capacity, unless a book out there exists. I don't think there's an official book for a Walk to Remember musical. And this isn't like fully staged or something. It's just like they're performing it like a radio play at a little podiums.
Peak Relient K, Walk to Remember, young teen Jessica is freaking out right now.
Where was this back then? Where was this 10, 12 years ago when it would have blown your mind? Where was the Walk to Remember stage musical then?
It was a little close to 15 plus.
All right, whatever.
Do you like to dance?
I'm sorry, I don't dance.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, not usually in front of anybody.
Well, no, I mean, I don't at all. And I can't.
What? Everybody can dance.
She doesn't take no for an answer, grabbing his hands in hers.
Oh, come on, you can't be that bad. Please, for me.
He finally gives in.
So I guess they're doing stage direction. So this isn't like a fully staged musical.
Okay, I was really confused. I was
this is
like,
like
which
a-
characters are these?
What would you call this? Like, not a tech run, but this is almost like a table read
Like a
tech
rehearsal?
run. Like a rehearsal, but they're standing, they're at podiums.
Yeah,
they're,
that's a
they're
rehearsal.
lightly acting and lightly turning to each other.
Rehearsal?
But I think this is how it was performed. This is how look at the video.
Oh,
they're all
I see.
standing at
Okay.
podiums. They are not going around and acting out a scene like it's a play, like they're in the
gotcha.
real space.
I got ya.
It's more like a radio play.
Gotcha.
And you're hearing someone announce the stage directions.
That's awful, as he said. Yeah. Sorry, I told you I was bad at this.
Yes, but in all fairness, you weren't me, right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so what's number one on your list? Alright, okay, well, number one on my list is getting out of boat.
How do you
This
think these
already
two?
feels so insensitive to the subject matter. They're literally talking about her list right now that she wants to achieve before she dies of cancer. Spoiler
Right.
warning for Walk to Remember.
I feel like anyone who listens to Relient K podcast should have seen Walk to Remember at this point. How do you think these two
So
compare to
true.
Mandy Moore and Jerky McJerk? What was the guy's name from the original movie?
Shane West.
Oh yeah, him. So how do you think these two, their stage presence compares? She kind of looks like a Mandy
I was
Moore
gonna
type.
say she does. She's doing the sweater acting with the very she's got this oversized sort of
But this
sweatshirt
guy is
hoodie
about
thing
as
on
old
and
as
holding-
Shane West is now.
So you won't even know me apart from this whole world that shares my face. This is the last one you mentioned. It's my last shot.
I love the Broadway take on the music.
Oh, we just zoomed out to show the whole cast.
Because I guess they were singing back up.
I have a lot of questions. I'm very confused. What does this have to do with what's first on her list? I didn't think it was gonna. Oh no.
That's classic stage performance.
We all love dying from cancer over here. Like, what the fuck is this?
It's the Walk to Remember. It's a music. It should be called a musical to remember.
I'm
Or
so
a Walk
mad
to
because
musical.
this is something I would have done in high school. Like, I would have written this. I'm so embarrassed and upset for everyone
You're really
involved.
you're just jealous that you didn't get to it first.
It's true.
Well, that's the Walk to Remember.
Oh, I thought you were gonna play the whole thing.
Do you want to hear the whole thing, or should we just get to our guest, who, God forbid, may be a part of the original musical because he is an actor?
Oh no! Was he Landon? Was he Landon? I have questions.
What we should do is we should put on the Walk to Remember musical again, and we'll have our guest Colin Bass
Oh my gosh!
as the Shameless Kid. Everyone's just gonna it's gonna be a Grease thing where no one's actually high school age.
For years, I would not let Danny watch Walk to Remember because I was so afraid he was going to ruin it for me, because Danny has a tendency to take things that I really love and then just ruin them and be like, tear them apart and be like, this is awful and terrible and why you should not like it.
And so we finally watched it about 5 years ago,
I was
and
so
I
scared.
promised no jokes. Like, I did have a joke like one every 20 minutes that didn't I'd only say them if I knew it wasn't tearing the movie down. But as the movie was going on, Jessica's like, oh no. Oh no, this isn't holding up.
Oh, this is like never meet your idols. Like, do not go back and watch things that you loved as a teenager unless it's Donnie Darko, because that still holds up.
Right. So, thanks. Check you out next week. On to our guest.
Thank you.
I gotta get out of here. And I'm begging you to be my escape.
So we're joined by Colin K. You know what? I just realized I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name. Is it Bass or Bass?
It's Bass, like the fish.
Bass. Okay. So Colin K. Bass, you reached out to us. Actually, let me tell you real quick. When I first noticed you were following us, you started liking some of our stuff on Instagram, and you're the first blue check verified account to ever follow us. So I'm like, who is this? And I look and I'm like, and I wasn't familiar with you. So I'm like, I saw how many followers you had and you had a blue check. And because of that, it puts your notifications sort of up towards the top. Right. And I'm like, who is this following us? And then you reached out to us and you're like, hey, I love that you're doing a Relient K podcast. And I'm like, hi. So I was excited to that we're, reaching different people and everything. So thanks for reaching out. Thanks for telling us you were interested in being on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I chimed in. I mean, I loved your guys' posts anyways, but the first one I listened to was Savannah, the Savannah podcast you guys did. And that was mine and my ex's song. That was our, love song. And I was always curious what it meant. And I have no ill feelings. We broke up over a year ago, but I was really interested to hear how you guys dove into it. And so I was listening to it and you guys were making me laugh right in the beginning. So I knew we'd get along. And then I really enjoyed your guys' breakdowns. And then again, if any of my current partners are listening during this, I'm fine. I'm over my ex. But I thought it was just really interesting how you guys broke down the music, the words, everything, what it meant. So I sent my ex the link because I thought it was interesting. That's it. I'm not trying to rekindle any romance or anything. And she just left me on red. So I hope she listens.
That's funny.
But yeah, then after that, I just I hit you guys up and you guys let me pick the song, and I'm really excited. I was looking forward to this for weeks.
Yeah. So tell us some about yourself. We were talking before the show and I started to get interested in what you were telling me you do and everything. So I wanted to make sure everyone hears about it.
Yeah, so I'm 5 years into Star Wars product development, but then COVID shut our building down and my future is pretty unclear. So I started diving into a lot of writing, acting, and social media marketing for this company called NerdBot up in LA. That's where I am now. I'm in their studio. And I've just been, that's my passion. And I was doing that and the day job over at Ruby's costume company for 5 years. And then I started not being very good at my day job because I cared more about filmmaking. So now I'm full-fledged filmmaking until I find out what I'm going to do once everything's open again. And yeah, it's a lot of superhero stuff, virtual cons, interviews, lots of things in the nerdy realm. So, and I've been a nerd my whole life, and I just am diving really hard into the filmmaking aspect of my life, and I'm up here filming for like 3 days right now.
Yeah, I watched some of your some like 0 and first episodes of some of the different sort of, I don't know if is fan film the correct term, or is it like tribute film? I wouldn't want to. What's the?
No, I'd say fan film's correct. Okay. And then because we were able to get good enough stats with fan film, we did our first original series called Solaris Evolution.
Okay.
And that's like my first real big step into something I created. I actually came up with the idea of Solaris in like middle school, and I pitched it to NerdBot, and the NerdBot picked it up and funded it. So we're on episode 2 of that right now.
Oh, great. Okay.
Wow, that's awesome.
There's so much like fan film stuff out there.
Yeah.
And we've seen, like, we went to WonderCon one year, and there was a whole like studio there that was like that specifically did like DC fan films.
Bat in the Sun?
Was it?
Bat in the Sun?
Maybe. I don't remember. I did look it up and I've already forgotten their name. Okay. But there's so many different studios out there that are like, you know, they start by making fan films and then they eventually start making their own original content and stuff. And it seems like such a popular way to go now. You build your audience with that sort of like, you know, getting people who are interested in like the Flash, or I saw you guys did a Power Rangers thing and everything. So it's an interesting way to go. And Jessica has worked with like, she worked with some friends who were like in sort of a smaller niche studio, and they did like YouTube shows and things like that. Oh, cool. So yeah. If you ever there's a YouTube show called Last Life, and we're in she worked on most of it. It's like a supernatural thriller type show. It's like a type of thing you'd see on a CW.
Oh,
it's like original characters and stuff that in the idea of like, this is something you'd see on CW.
Vampire Diaries.
Yeah, Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I appear in this series. We both appear in the series finale as like nameless supernatural people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, vampire-esque people. We're not vampires, but we're like pushing.
We're like witches.
Yeah, we're like witches. They were like, we need you to, because they didn't have enough people. They're like, we need you to be one of the people in the big final fight, which has only involved like 10 people.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be the big final fight. And I'm like using telekinetic powers. Like, I've never done anything like this.
Did it feel cool?
It did, yeah. We had to get like a big coat for me, so it would kind of look like had been around for a long time. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you love Relient K?
Yes,
like,
I do.
You reached out to us about this, and you picked Be My Escape. It's so funny because the same week that we were talking, and I sent you the spreadsheet, you picked 2 songs that we barely ever have guests on this show. It's actually like we kind of reached the halfway point. We realized we've done half of the list of songs that we have. So like in this next portion of the show, we're going to start reaching out to more people and having them on the show.
Cool.
But we have never really had guests. And then all of a sudden we had a bunch of guests, and the 2 songs you first picked, we had people planned for. And I was like, oh. So I was like, let me see how to make this work. And then you said you want to be on Be My Escape. And I'm like, okay, well, no one has Be My Escape yet. So that worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I figure when I post about it, it'll kind of remind people of the one that, you know, went pretty mainstream for Relient K. I've been listening to them since, I want to say, like middle school, so way before or anything. But Be My Escape will be the one where it's like, oh, I do know this song, and hopefully we can raise some hype for Relient K, get them back in the studio.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, everyone's waiting for that. That we get questions about it all the time. Like people are like, do you know if Relient K is still around? And like the answer is like, yes, but COVID, and like they, you know, they're just kind of like, they were kind of on an unannounced hiatus anyway, and like they were probably getting back to be ready to work on something again before COVID hit. So they'll be back anytime. It's just everything got slowed down because of what happened with the world.
Yeah, hopefully they hop into a tour once things open up again. I'm seeing, do you guys like May? MAE?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm seeing them in September with Juliana Theory.
Oh, nice.
I'm just hoping it sparks everyone going, yeah, let's get back to touring. all my pop punk music can come back, and I can have a real busy end of the year going to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So you like already all of these band references are pretty much directly in our sphere. So, so like, where did you come up, or where did you grow up, and how did you get into this general type of music?
Born and raised in San Diego, California, and I think we briefly talked about this, but there was just one year in my life where my mom went like full on religious and took away all of our video games and toys and CDs, and like it was a really messed up day where I came home and all my superheroes were gone. I'm like, what is happening? And then we were only allowed to like watch and listen to and play with Christian stuff.
Right.
And I was just a little kid, so I didn't know any better. And I was just kind of like leaning into it. My big brother was always rebelling, like, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do this? And then I remember we went to, God, I think it was called Chronicles. It was some Christian store. And that's where I learned about Veggie Tales and Switchfoot and Relient K. And as, I grew up and, my mom got more relaxed and I got my superheroes back, I still really enjoyed Relient K. I still really enjoyed Switchfoot. And I found out that some bands that I just happened to listen to, like May started out, or Rocket Summer and stuff, started out as Christian, and they changed their label later on. But Relient K was the one where I always checked in every album, and they just stuck with me. And I, my ex that I'm going to bring up my ex lot. But my ex and I, we always cooked breakfast listening to Forget and Not Slow Down. It was our favorite album, and obviously with Savannah on it. And then I went and saw Switchfoot and Relient K live at I think somewhere in LA, and it just blew my mind. And then I went and saw May with my ex, and Matthew pops up out of nowhere and does an acoustic set. And we were just like, this is destiny. This is our band, this is our guy. And I've way too many Relient K songs on my liked playlist, and I've only seen them, like 1.5 times, but that kind of music, kind of the uplifting pop punk, has always stuck with me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of emo and hip hop and everything, but I kind of accidentally find out that these bands are religious because they're not singing about, the death and gloomy days. They're more like, hey, everything's going to be all right. And that's kind of my style,
Right.
Yeah.
Was that Switchfoot Relient K show you went to? Was that at the Palladium in Hollywood?
I think so. It was a while ago. I can't remember, but
it was in like 2016 or something, right?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
because we were at that same show.
Yeah.
Oh man, when they did Deathbed was so cool to see live with both of them. Whew.
Yeah, it's great. Jessica's not a big fan of Deathbed. That's the big thing. If you only listen to a couple episodes, like it's kind of triggering for her. Yeah.
Well, you guys might not like this, but I didn't like Air for Free.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
that's
are we
okay.
Still friends?
Yeah. Jessica loves
Where do you stand on Collapsible Lung, though?
I briefly talked about it. I think it's kind of a messy album, but the Collapsible Lung actual song, I love. I love that.
Oh yeah, that was
song.
one. Yeah, that was one of the songs that you were almost on for the show.
Yeah, but the whole album, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Part-time lover. I'm like, who is this? Don't Blink, I also enjoyed. So kind of the beginning and the end was basically it for me.
Yeah.
What about this song specifically, Be My Escape? Do you have any thoughts on it, or is there any memories or specific thoughts that you have about the lyrics or the music or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the music video very vividly, but I was still, I think the only Relient K CD I actually had was Two Lefts Don't Make a Right, but Three Do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of was stuck in like, Relient K is kind of silly. They don't really take themselves very seriously. I love the 80s and Mood Rings and stuff. I just thought they were just kind of a funnier band.
Mm-hmm.
And then my buddy Calvin, I must have been in 9th grade or something. My buddy Calvin shows me Be My Escape. And then he shows me, And I go, this is so much better. I love like every song on this album. And then I remember I heard about them and I go, oh, it's a Christian band. I'm never going to see them pop up on MTV or something. But that was like the big phase of like emo and pop punk and everything, like Fall Out Boy. All these songs kind of in the same genre were popular, and I could actually listen to the radio, unlike now where I don't like what's on the radio. And so I'm at Calvin's house and we see Relient K and Be My Escape pop up on his TV, and we were just like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So it was a bit, and then I remember I burned the CD, and listened to it until it was like scratched and dead. But I think I have like really good memories of that whole entire album. But you know, Be My Escape was the one that kind of was so good it branched out into the more secular world, just like Meant to Live with Switchfoot. You know, it's so good off of Beautiful Letdown that it won over people. And then we talked about this briefly in the DMs, where like a lot of people that don't really listen to lyrics think it's probably about a guy, about a girl, and the girl is his escape, and everything like that. We know that's not the case, but I'm sure that was why it was able to branch out, because everyone's like, yeah, girl, be my escape.
Yeah, there was definitely this time where there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's like there's a time before where if you were a Christian band that somehow broke out in the mainstream, it's because you very specifically had like a song that wasn't Christian. You know what I mean? Like it was like Amy Grant in the 80s with she had a couple of radio hits that were like very specifically not Christian. And then like, you know, Sixpence None the Richer, or like Jars of Clay suddenly being on the radio. And it's like the one, you know, and they weren't like changing who they were. They just suddenly had a song that wasn't like, it could be marketed in a certain way. But then there's this thing, there was this parallel universe where it was like, you know, there's punk and emo and hardcore and metalcore. And there's all of these Christian kids from around the world for like the previous 10, 15 years who are starting these bands, and they're starting them in churches and stuff. And then they get out on the road, and then they're just like meshing in with regular rock scenes. You know what I mean? So by the time a band like Relient K and other like Christian metalcore bands are all over Warped Tour, it's like all of these Christian bands have suddenly taken over like the actual emo and metalcore and pop punk scene, but they didn't do it like, I don't think they did it like deceptively, like let's take over the whole scene. It's just like they were all these Christian bands that kind of came up and started playing regular tours and stuff, and they had like a positivity and everything. And they had lyrics like Be My Escape, where it's like it could be about a girl or it could be about God, but it's not like they were masking anything. It's just that was a natural lyric, because it's some of these bands probably were singing about both. That's kind of the thing I go back to sometimes, is like there are some songs by Relient K that are very obviously about God, and then other songs that are not, what, you know, and other songs that are very obviously about a girl, right? Because if there's certain references in like The One I'm Waiting For, where it's like, this can't be about God, he's very clearly singing about a girl, right? But then there's a song like this where it's like a perfect middle ground, and it's like you can't exactly tell the difference. So maybe, you know, it's kind of like a death of the author thing. It can kind of be about whatever fits and works best for you.
Yeah, I noticed just even through this conversation, there's that line in Be My Escape where it's like, but the beauty of grace is that it makes life not fair. Right. And I remember Switchfoot, when they went pretty mainstream and they were playing at the Delmar Fair every summer. Do you guys remember those days? I miss those days.
What is that?
And, Switchfoot playing at the Delmar Fair.
Oh, yeah.
Like the summer concert.
Oh, you know, we've only been in SoCal for like 7 years, so that must be
okay. Yeah, no, they used to I've seen Switchfoot every year since like 2004, and then they started getting too big or taking breaks and stuff. Right. But they used to always go to Delmar Fair, and then they were really popular that summer of A Beautiful Letdown. And they would not say God, they would say grace, and it would make everyone more comfortable or something. You know?
Okay, yeah.
It's like, he's like, I just want to thank grace. We have something in our life. It's called grace, you know. Right. Relient K, you know, it's not like the beauty of God is that it makes, they use the word grace to kind of make everyone more comfortable. Right. And for the people that aren't digging into lyrics like us, it's like, yeah, beauty of grace, because grace doesn't have to mean religion or anything. It could be about a girl still.
Right, and it could actually be a girl's name.
Yeah. My ex-girlfriend, Grace, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Just to go back for a second, with your mom taking away everything that's like not Christian and stuff like that, I didn't have a moment that was as specifically harsh as that, but there was a moment in my life where my mom was tired of me listening. I would listen to like Nirvana when I was a kid and stuff, and you know, Smashing Pumpkins or like grunge bands. And my mom was like worried a little bit for my soul. Like we didn't have the most Christian household, but she's a little, or she's worried about the influence of that music and stuff. And she didn't specifically take it away from me, but she was like, she took me to the Christian bookstore once, and she's like, there's music here that sounds exactly like the music you like. So go ahead, talk to the lady at the counter and find the bands you like. And, you know, they had those charts I don't know if you ever seen.
Wow.
Oh yeah, there's the WoW CDs and stuff.
Wow, that's what I call music.
Yeah, but there were also these like pamphlets that were like a grid, and it's like if you like this band, you will like this band. You know, it's like if you like
cool.
Blink-182, you will like MXPX, or you will like Relient K. You know what I mean? So I used like that kind of chart, and that's how I learned about MXPX. And I was eventually like just being at that Christian bookstore a couple years later, I just saw Relient K sitting on the shelf. And I like just picked it up. I'm like, this looks like my kind of band. This is their first album where they're like, you know, running on the track and field.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm old. I think it sounds like I'm older than you.
I'm 30.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm about 10 years older than you. I'm turning 40 pretty soon.
Well, you look great.
That old,
Thank you. I know.
We're closer in age.
Yeah.
I'm younger than him.
And this is another thing is like it comes up a lot just doing this show and meeting more people who are into Relient K and and getting plugged in with the whole Relient K community online is that there's this like broad swath of like people and generations of people that have gotten into the band, and so many people are younger than us and people even getting into them now in their teens, and it's like, you know, sometimes it used to like hurt our hearts when people would be like, yeah, I listened to Air for Free when I was in middle school or something. No. And we're
like, have you guys like gotten the attention of anyone from Relient K with this podcast? Like,
yes. Yeah, we had John Schneck. He he was on our show. He sings lead on one song. It's called Be Your Man. So we had which he wrote. He wrote that song
from the Bird and the B-Sides.
Yeah, you know the Bird and the B-Sides album?
I love the Bird and the B-Sides.
Yeah. You know that track where the country-ish track that sort of separates the new songs from the B-Sides section of the album?
I think I skip it, but I do.
Okay. It ends with like them all doing bee voices, and they're like, buzz, 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 and they're like, put the next part of the record on. That song is written by John Schneck. It's the only song he wrote and sang, and we had him on that episode. And he's super personable and like easy to talk to. And sometimes we have questions, like deep cut questions. Although, you know, he was in the band for a long time, but he's in the band for a certain section. Like pretty much he wasn't on the recording, but he joined on the tour for that album through Collapsible Lung. So if I have a question for anything in that time frame, then he can usually answer it. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure Matt Hoops, who's also pretty online, he must know we exist, but I've never seen any proof. I've never seen any interaction or anything. And I'm okay with that because we talked about this on a really recent episode, but I'm like, if you're like one of the main creative forces of a band and there's like a fan podcast about you, unless you're like a huge band and there's like 20 fan podcasts about you, like you might not want to necessarily retweet like anything because then it might kind of canonize our opinions to people, or it might, even if they don't intend it that way, it might other people looking online might be like, oh well, Relient K, the official Twitter page, liked this, so this must be the official place to go for opinions about Relient K. And then if we say anything they don't agree with, then
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I wish Relient K had more merch. I saw your guys' store and I was like, man, I wish there was more like this. Sadie Hawkins, the Relient K fans will automatically think of the song over the dance, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think I heard the phrase first from Relient K than before I learned what it really was.
Yeah.
And then I'm like on Relient K's page because I was like, man, I should support Relient K. What do they got? And they have like one shirt, and I think it's only comes in a few sizes.
Right.
I wish they had more swag that I could rock, you know?
I think they've been like slowly emptying out from following up the Air for Free tour with Switchfoot. They had a bunch of merch, like I think 4 years ago, like after that tour, they had more stuff. And as it's selling out, they're just not replacing it right now. So hopefully when they really come back, they'll start having more. Like right when we started this podcast, they had a few hats left, like beanie hats with the Air for Free 3 dots on it. And we got one, and then eventually those were gone too.
I see you guys have a sticker in the back from Relient K. Do you have a sticker?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that a concert or?
That one is, I got that as part of some sort of promotion from the 5 Score era, I think. Or maybe it came from Bird and the B-Sides. I'm not really sure.
Well, that's the Bird and the B-Side Bird. So,
yeah. And then I have another one over here, and that one came with, it either came with the first 3 Gears album that I have, or I got it at a show in like 2005.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I wish I would. There's so many times I was like at shows and stuff that I took for granted, all this cool stuff that we'll probably never see again.
Yeah.
Switchfoot does re-releases of like, their old albums on shirts and stuff, but it's just not the same. I had this Switchfoot shirt, my favorite shirt. I probably wore it until it had holes in it, but it was the album cover of Nothing Is Sound, but it was just like the silhouette of it. So it wasn't just like a big square on your shirt. It was like really designed and intricate with the rising sun and the words and everything. It was the best shirt, and I'll probably never ever see it again.
Yeah.
just like those stickers. I wish I would have stocked up on different shows.
You have to check eBay.
Yeah.
eBay's got great stuff, because I had this Relient K shirt that I absolutely loved that I got at the first show that I ever went to of theirs, which was in 2005.
Oh, wow.
And it, like, I wore it so much, it wore out, like it was like really like grungy. And so I didn't want to wear it anymore. And so I found another one in pristine condition on eBay and like rebought
like 2 years
it
ago.
like 2 years ago. Yeah.
Great. Okay. I'll hop on there because
Yeah.
I want to rep some bands.
Yeah, and if there's nothing there now, then definitely make some save searches and stuff and figure
For
it out. So are there any other songs that you're like a big fan of? I know you told us basically your history with the band, but aside from Be My Escape, like, do you like a Sadie Hawkins dance, or do you like, do you lean more towards that middle era, or do you like the early stuff? You already said you don't like Air for Free.
Yeah, I mean, I think I lean more to Five Scores and but Forget Not Slow Down is my favorite one. So those three would probably be my top 3. But I'm sorry, the B-sides was amazing too. There's so many I just like I'm still searching through. I love I Guess We've Made It This Far is one of my favorites off there.
Yeah.
But no, those 3 albums, I had a really crappy car, and the only CD that worked in it was Five Scores. And so I knew every song. It's funny because I think each album of Relient K, I kind of in my brain has associated it with a girl. So it's really like teen angsty for me when I hear these certain songs. Like I'm blanking on the name, but it's like, we should get jerseys because we make a good team. That one? What's that one called?
Yeah.
What's that one called?
Must have done something right.
Yes. So that one, I was dating this older girl that was like way out of my league, and I like made it our song because I thought that she was way out of my league. But now when I hear it, I like cringe. I'm like, oh, that was a horrible. But so Relient K, I'm always associated with like different relationships in my life, even friendships and stuff. But those 3 albums especially, because that was like the big era of pop punk where it was pretty mainstream, and I could throw that on. But now when I'm like, hanging out with friends or at a party or something, I can't throw on, Relient K or Jack's Mannequin or Motion City Soundtrack or anything like that, because they'd be like, what is this? Let's put on something up. But back then I would just drive around in my awful car and blast my Relient K or whatever other music I was listening to at the time with no shame. And those albums, I just kind of like, each album reminds me of a different girl or friend or time in my life, but especially those 3. And then I keep checking back whenever Relient K was releasing new music. They did that Valentine's Day EP, right? The little quick one. And I hear that intro and I'm like, they're rocking out again. Yes. That's all I like to hear. So I mean, Air for Free was very, very different. And I get that, bands go through different phases, but I just kind of missed the harder pop punk version of Relient K. Yeah. And I'm just hoping they at least touch base on that for a few songs on whatever their next album is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, if you love the song Savannah, then check out our episode on Sleepin' from Air for Free, because we discovered that it's basically like a pseudo sequel or like a spiritual sequel.
Really?
To that song. Yeah, there's like actually like there's musical phrasing that it borrows from, even though it's kind of not obvious. It's like done in a certain way.
And we found a great on our YouTube deep dive, we found a really great person who did like a cover where they did like
mashed it up live on guitar.
Live.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
it was really good.
I would love to hear that. That sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different kind of song sonically. You know what I mean? Like Savannah's very wistful and dreamy, and Sleepin' is more poppy and sort of like modern. But yeah, there is a connection there.
I love the deep dives you guys do on like covers and music videos and stuff. You have to imagine these kids filming on camcorders and cams and everything. Oh my gosh. I still remember like AMV videos where it'd be like anime and then Relient K would be playing over it. And I would see all, because, you know, we're obviously years behind whatever they're playing in Japan. So it's like Relient K music that we know and love. And then there's scenes from like 3 seasons of Naruto.
Right.
I'm like, what is happening in that show?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about asking you that, like, because you do all the sort of nerdy superhero stuff. That's what a lot of your work right now is about. Does this music ever feel like it kind of elevates that in your mind, or is there any connection to it for you? Because like there is so much stuff online, and I was wondering maybe in your childhood, since when maybe after your mom took away your superheroes and stuff, did you ever have like a connection there? Did you ever make a tribute video to like a superhero show, or did you ever do anything like that?
I call it the Nerdbot house, but it's basically this house that has like a studio, salon, an office. It's like a whole like multimedia house. And, there's an office here, and I lock myself up. I grab a few White Claws and I listen to music while I write. So it's kind of like my writing thing. And I'll throw on these guys never really went anywhere, but it's called The Graduate. It's kind of this style of music, and I throw that on. But yeah, I always put on some type of this genre of music. Helps me write my scripts because I do all the writing for our scripts and different idea pitches. But that is how music plays into it. I'm not really in charge of picking the music for the edits or anything. But I never did like an AMV video. But I do remember in high school, Calvin, my friend I told you about that showed me Be My Escape. He and I went on this. It's just such a stupid high school thing, but bear with me, okay? We couldn't drive. We had like some skateboards, and we went around Encinitas, which is like this like beach town down in San Diego. And we just went to different stores and took pictures and did stupid stuff on camera. And then we made like a slideshow of our adventure. It was just like 2 kids running around the city. It was stupid, super dumb. But I remember we put some Relient K music on there, but we never wanted anyone to see it because we just did it for fun. That was the closest. But we were really into like Naruto and anime, but you know, Cartoon Network was just releasing 1 episode a week. Right. And then so that's when we dove into AMVs and saw way too much stuff that we've never seen before. And it's funny how much like Relient K went with Kingdom Hearts and Naruto.
Yeah, there's a lot of Kingdom Hearts.
Exactly. So that's my experience with it. But also I do use this type of music for my writing process over here.
Yeah.
That's great.
Last week we did Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been. And that's a song where like if any character whose arc is they started as a villain and you know became either a hero or a reluctant hero, there's at least 2 AMVs or FMVs for that character, and then you know across the internet there's at least 2 for every character. So think of every character multiplied times 2. There's so many character tribute videos to that specific song.
Man, that music video was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hates Who I've Been. I always love that music video.
Talk about superhero. That's a superhero. But and that's directed by I always get them backwards, but that one's either directed by Mark Webb or I forget his name now, but the new Spider-Man guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they've worked with 2 out of 3 of the Spider-Man. Did I say Superman? I meant Spider-Man.
That must have done something right.
I gotta look it up because I can't think of all their names right now. But
must have done something like that, right? It was a great music video too. The soccer ball.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
So
John Watts, that's it. So John Watts, who directs the MCU Spider-Man movies.
Wow.
And Mark Webb, who did the Andrew Garfield movies. They both directed Relient K videos.
That is so cool.
It is, yeah. And so Sam Raimi's the only one who needs to get on there and direct a Relient K music video.
He's not busy, is he?
I know. Yeah. He's like years between movies.
Yeah, I think he's ready to come back for his big return. So
what if people want to check out your work? You mentioned there's Nerdbot. I'm actually looking at the logo right here. And it's your avatar for this Zoom call.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in his office, so I'm in
Okay.
the studio, so it's all nerdbot all over the place around here.
So what's the best way to like kind of check out what you do? We looked on YouTube at some of the stuff that you acted in and everything like that, but where would you direct people to sort of check out your work?
I think I'm the most active on my Instagram at Colin K Bass, and you'll see it's all superhero stuff with a sprinkle of my personal life, some cute dogs, some stuff like that. But yeah, I'm most active on there. Nerdbot.com is like the company that absorbed our little. We had a little 2-person studio. It was just me and my buddy making videos, and then during COVID we got absorbed and now owned by Nerdbot, and so everything's basically on their YouTube. But yeah, my Instagram is probably the place to go where I'm most active, and you'll see a little bit of everything that we're working on. We're doing like 4 series right now with some release dates coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
It's lots of Power Rangers. We're doing this like thing. It's like kind of like a superhero battle. The Mandalorian versus
April. Sorry, one second.
Sorry.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's a Chiweenie, a Chihuahua Dachshund mix.
Oh,
She's coming over right now.
yay, a new guest.
She's supposed to be a professional. She's our podcast engineer.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. I love dogs.
This happens on almost every Zoom call.
It does.
She barks, we pick her up, we bring her over, and the person we're talking to is like, oh, there she is.
I think she's like, time's up, guys. Come.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly on my Instagram, you'll see everything we're working on, and I always do some fun throwbacks so you can see where we've come from. But I mean, I started with just me, a buddy, and a flip cam, and then now we're juggling all these different web series with budgets and stuff. It's been a really fun ride. I'm really grateful.
That's awesome.
Great. So thank you so much. Did you have anything else you wanted to sum up about Relient K or Be My Escape or anything like that?
Yeah, I think Relient K is so good that if you do know Be My Escape, you should do a dive into their Spotify and try out their other songs. I mean, honestly, there's 100 songs I could have picked, but I'm trying to do this one so that we could get more people listening to them,
right?
And, get their views up, get the popularity spiking again, and then hopefully they'll be a little more motivated to give us some more content. But don't judge a band off one song. That's my last message.
Right.
Yeah.
Judge them off at least 5 or 6 songs.
Yeah.
Yes. And let Spotify's most popular plays be a helpful judge, because that's what helps me when I find a new band.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I had a blast talking to you. And if you guys ever want to do this again, please let me know.
We will. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a great day, you guys.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.